Hello again. It is April here in the sandbox. Thank you for joining me today. I didn't know where to start because it's been so long since I put out an episode, especially a solo episode. But I knew I needed to start somewhere. And what better way than to tell you the things that I've been playing with in my sandbox recently. So if you're like me, because you know that you've heard it only a million times, that journaling is the way to go. That it's awesome, it's healing, it's helpful, and that the best way to do it is longhand, putting actual pencil or pen to paper and doing that in the morning. 3 pages, according to the Artist's Way book. And I did do that for a while, but it wasn't sustainable for me. So anyway, just knowing the way that I work, that if I was required to do it longhand, it just wouldn't happen. Then you may feel my excitement when I came across a website called new.750words.com. So new.750words.com. The concept takes that same concept of writing 3 pages longhand and takes that 20 minutes that you would spend doing it that way and changes it to 750 words. So for me, it kind of ends out being the same amount of time that I would spend writing 3 pages longhand and typing out the 750 words. But because it's 750 words typed, I will actually have the motivation to do it. There's just something about longhand that I can't do it. I can't, won't, whatever. I think that even if it's not ideal, it is working with my own biases, my own inclinations, the way I know that I like to do things. And it's really cool. This website, it gives you badges for your consistency. It might seem like just this little thing, but having this, you've earned this spirit penguin badge for, I don't know, like 10 days of consistently showing up and writing your 750 words. It's just cool. And then once you're typing, and you get to your 750 because it has a little word counter at the bottom, then confetti falls down the screen and it just makes you feel that little dopamine hit. And it's all, of course, private. No one's seeing it, but they have this AI in place, I guess, that picks up on the words that you're using so that when you go to the bottom, you can click see stats after you've done journaling for the morning. And I'm a person that I love bar graphs. It will tell you on the bar graph how much of your writing was devoted to happiness or sadness or fear or joy or accomplishment, blah, blah, blah. And this pie charts how much of it was introverted versus extroverted wording. It has like several neat little graphics that kind of clue you in, being like, oh wow, I guess if it hadn't hit you already during your journaling, certain things that were bothering you, you can look at this data and be like, oh wow, I am angry. Or maybe I'm not as pessimistic as I thought. So it's really cool. I will tell you that I knew right off the bat, I didn't even need to do a trial. I don't know if they even offer a free trial, but I didn't need a trial because I knew that this is something that I wanted to do, and I paid for the year. I think it's like $50, but they give you a promo code where it's $40 for the entire year. And I'm like, I need this motivation, this small way of having someone hold me accountable, this website. And even though no one's policing, I still, like I said, get that little dopamine hit when I see that I have shown up for myself. And hopefully I'm a little bit more nicer person to be around because I'm getting all that stuff out, all that crap that's been building. I'm just getting it out on the page even though it's a digital one, up front, so that way things are not running in the background, taking up computer memory, so to speak. I've freed up space in order to take what's coming in the present moment. That's the website, new.750words.com. I thought it was awesome. I wanted to share that with you. Here's another thing that's out of left field. I recommend you going to montymontan.com, and I apologize, I may be even mispronouncing the name horribly, but Monty, Monty, last name montan.com. And the reason why I'm suggesting going to this website is because once you've had your eyeballs filled with the light from these pixels, you will never look at a website quite the same. Any homepage will just never do it. This will ruin you for all other websites because it's just fun. This website, it is legitimately fun. You can feel the creator's energy and authenticity and that childlike sense of play come up. And it's just refreshing to me. I was like blown away, completely enthralled with the thing. Fun for fun's sake. And I don't want to spoil it by telling you any of the questions that she asks to get to know you. But it was indeed like a pleasure to sit down and come up with answers for this website. So I'm just gonna let you check it out. Let me know what you think and tell me if I'm overreacting or if you know of other web pages that are as titillating. Let me know. All right. What else am I up to? I wanted to mention that Mel Robbins podcast. I don't know a whole lot about her, but one of the accounts I follow on social media had a quote from her. And see, this is how little I knew about her. I thought Mel was a man, Mel Robbins, but she's a she. And the quote from her, I liked it so much that I was like, I need to subscribe to her podcast. So I subscribed, and what do you know? The first podcast episode that gets released after I subscribe is called How to Make Your Life Exciting Again. I don't know how many of you needed to hear that, but I know I did, and the title itself was enough to pull me in and listen. And there's probably not going to be anything that feels completely foreign to you, but it's going to remind you of a few things that you may have forgotten. So you're going to remember them. It's easy listening. And so I really recommend the episode just so that you can figure out ways of fighting back, fighting the habituation that happens in our lives, and how to build anticipation into our lives to make everything a little bit more exciting. Okay, what else? So I don't know as far as marketing. I'm not a marketing guru. I may be doing the complete wrong thing. But because I do several different things, I felt like I needed to have a different branding for each of those things that people who were looking for that could find me. So for example, I love to do dream interpretations. So I thought that if I just continued to do that as part of the Sandbox podcast, that those episodes would just get buried in with everything else, and that people who were looking for dream interpretations wouldn't be able to find me. So I have a separate website, www.thedreamtranslator.com, and I also have a tarot and oracle website because I love doing that. You can find that at dragonrosetarot.com. So I am offering those readings for free. If you're in the future listening back to this and you're like, hey, I just checked out your website and it's not free anymore, I'm just telling you that for now and for the foreseeable future, it is free. I am considering it part of my karma yoga, and it is a thing. So I'm just really enjoying it. You can select your own deck. I think that's fun because for me, I love choices. I love to play. And so you have to pick your own deck or choose reader's choice, which would be mine. And then you type in your question. And then as soon as I get time to get to it, I get back to you with a response. I email it. So we're not having to coordinate. If you're an introvert like me, you're not having to hope that you're feeling extroverted on that day. It's all by email. So feel free to take advantage of the tarot and oracle card readings. And then thirdly, if you go to sandboxalchemy.com, you can go to astrology. I am also doing free astrology readings right now. I finished my year 1 through Nightlight Astrology, and I was all set to do year 2. And I'm telling you guys this because I think it's important that I'm not presenting this fake facade. I will tell you that I had already signed up for year 2 when I submitted my exam for year 1, and I didn't pass. I didn't pass the first time around. That kind of took the wind out of my sails, and I was like, you know what? I need to go back and do some refreshers. The lady I was communicating with through Nightlight, she was really sweet, and she encouraged me to continue on, saying that it was just a few technical things in my submission that were incorrect. However, overall, she could see that I was able to piece together. She suggested that I continue to do year 2, which started in July. So that way it would just continue to build on what I had learned. And I'll be more prepared with even more practices and exercises to resubmit my exam. And the thing is I drew some tarot cards, and it gave me a very clear answer, some insight into the situation that I don't think I was wanting to think it was going to be that big of a deal, but I'm going back to college, doing some online courses. So that has started in earnest. Well, I'm taking one course now, and then I'm starting full time this fall. And the lady I'd been corresponding with, she didn't know that until I shared it with her that I had gotten this reading, and I got the Ten of Wands. So if any of you are familiar with tarot, especially the deck that I was using the Light Seers Tarot, and that imagery really is of someone who's burdened and carrying so much. And I sometimes do have that tendency to take on too much responsibility. So it was just giving me insight into how this coming year I have a lot on my plate, and then I didn't need to add on this class, this year 2 class, which is even more advanced. Long story out of the way, I did fail my first time to submit. However, I have gotten a lot of great feedback from complete strangers regarding the astrological readings that I've done, saying that it was spot on. And I don't necessarily think that that has anything to do with me, right? The natal chart, the birth chart, is an oracle. The founder of Nightlight Astrology, he approaches astrology as an oracle, and I do too. I concur. I feel that is true. So whenever you approach it, it's going to say something different every time, and for sure from reader to reader. I mean, there are going to be some basics that are probably going to be screaming at every reader who sees it, but they're going to be different things that speak to the reader at that time, depending on what the person who's having their chart read needs in that moment. So help me get some practice, would you? And if you like your reading, please share it on all your social media platforms, your newsletters, etc. I do want to get more practice, because I will tell you that it's one of those things that's scary to me. I don't feel confident in my skills. And so it has been an extreme trust exercise in the universe, and me just committing to showing up. By you taking me up on it, it's giving me practice, and then you can give me feedback. Like, that didn't resonate so much, or that was spot on and exactly what I needed to hear. So take me up on that as well. Sandboxalchemy.com. What else have I been up to? So Caroline at Peace and Chaos, I think you have heard me talk about her before, but I continue to see her. She's a psychic, intuitive, She had said this more than once, and so I had forgotten that the universe really does want me to build trust in other people, in source, in God, in universe. And I will tell you that as a life path 7, that is basically the challenge for life path 7s, is to surrender and build trust, because for all 7s, there will have been some type of childhood challenge or whatever that would have made it more difficult to trust people and the universe, or maybe even something inside us that kind of prevents us from being as trusting. I had started this Google document called TrustNet. And so anytime that I came up with a synchronicity or something in which the universe came through for me, I would write it down. And so it's been pretty cool. And I need to get back into that, because it is pretty awesome to look back and be like, here I am feeling as though I'm just hanging out to dry. The universe doesn't see me, doesn't care, whatever. And I can go back and see that could be the story that I'm telling myself in this moment, and that probably feels true. But I have this body of evidence that is pretty clear. It clearly points to a different truth. Maybe that encourages you. If you want to keep track of synchronicities or times that the universe has shown up and provided what you needed in exactly the right moment, maybe that would help when later on down the road, because we all have them, we have these little rough patches where things aren't as sparkly, then you can remind yourself, what I'm feeling right now is valid. It's part of the human experience, but it does not mean that this is an objective truth, and I do not have to stay with this story. It can change. The thing that I heard recently was for people such as myself who have a lot of our idiosyncrasies informed by past experiences. What if you woke up with a clean slate? Like this horrible thing that happened. And if you know anything about my life recently, you will know that I am kind of tiptoeing around the elephant in the room about an event that happened April 19th of this year. Jupiter and Uranus conjunction were on top of my Chiron. So anyway, I don't want to get into all of that, possibly because I haven't fully processed it. I don't know what's going to be happening with this ever-evolving process, story, blah, blah, blah. But can I wake up without all of that baggage already coloring my day? I would like to think that I could. I would like to have that fresh start to a day instead of having it already poisoned. So that being established about trust, I just wanted to detail to you a synchronicity that happened. I think it was yesterday now. Yesterday, day before yesterday, I was journaling in my handy dandy new.750words.com website. And I found myself typing out the words, I hope I didn't hurt her feelings. I never want to hurt anybody. And I stopped. And then I continued writing, well, that's not exactly true. It is true in this situation that I did not want to hurt that person's feelings, and I was hopeful that I had expressed myself well, but it was not true that I have never wanted to hurt anybody. And I think it comes from a very human place of when we are hurting, often we want to see the offending party hurt just as much or more as we are. So I was just journaling about that and how when you do want someone to hurt because you hurt, it's never pretty. It's like a wildfire and it's never contained. And it can turn into things like divorce. It can turn into child abuse. It can turn into international wars. So either on a micro or macro scale, it gets messy whenever you react from that place. So I just say that because you'll notice I was already journaling. It was on my radar about how people sometimes wanted other people to hurt. So honestly, if we're getting real, like sometimes when adults, they punish a child, the parent is coming from a place where they are hurt. And maybe hurt would be more accurate to say frustrated, annoyed, they feeling disrespected, something. Anyway, they are hurt in some way. And they look over and their little one is just walking around like they're God, which they are. They're a spark of the divine, just like we are. But they're walking around all perfectly happy and clueless that they have done anything wrong. The parent, and I can only speak to what I know, right? So coming from the South where corporal punishment was very popular, widespread, that's where you were like, this child needs to check themselves, and you're the one to make sure that it happens, that they realize that they did something wrong and it needs to change. I don't know why I went into that. I just want to let you know, if you are a struggling parent right now, you're not alone. I think so many times we are tempted, even though we love our children dearly, to react from a place of frustration, of some type of pain, irritation, and sometimes what they did may have just aggravated something else that was going on. I just want to encourage you that I think sometimes we have a tendency to feel like we are monsters because of some of the rage that you might feel come up. I want to say that that is definitely normal at times. I think it's a human reaction. And it's like, what do you do with it though? In that moment, are you breathing? Are you pausing? Are you recognizing that you are not in the right space to dole out punishment, to say the things that you need to be saying? I think a lot of us are acting from a hurt child place, a very young place within us. And maybe we can't do anything about that in the moment, but we can be the older child in the situation and have that little bit of distance to give ourselves between the stimulus and our reactivity to that. Parenting is a hard job, and I just want to give you all kudos for continuing to be the front lines in your child's lives. Yeah, I think you're awesome. I totally digress. Okay, so I'm journaling about hurt people. After I'm done, I do my card pull of the day, and I had 5 of Wands reversed. And I was reading in the guidebook associated with the deck, and it was about hollow victories, someone being hurt. And I was like, okay. Some of the words could have been pulled from my journal entry I had just written. And sometimes how you approach tarot is important, because if like 5 of Wands reversed is not necessarily a very happy, sunny card. And if I had just stopped there and been like, this is awful, it's prognosticating, my day is already doomed, then that would have been maybe not so healthy a place for me to stop. So sometimes I will pull a second card and be like, okay, if this is the energy of the day, this is the card of the day, how can I best navigate this? Because the tarot is there for that too. Like, okay, maybe this is not so happy, but how can I make the most of it? And I wondered out loud, because the Wands is associated with the fire element. I was like, I think Earth is the opposite of fire. So I wonder if the card that I'm going to pull is going to be an Earth element card, if it's going to be an Earth card. And so from the deck, Tarot of Curious Creatures, I pulled the World card. And maybe this is just tarot humor, and maybe it would have to happen to you in order for it to feel profound. But depending on the deck I had chosen, the visual would be different, right? So if you're going with the traditional, the Waite Smith deck, then there would not be a picture of a globe on it. But with this deck that I chose, there was a picture of a globe on it. And it took me a moment, doing something else, for me to realize Earth. That is a picture of the freaking Earth on this card. So yeah, is this going to be an Earth card? And there's the Earth. I don't know. I'm just building this little string of synchronicities all at one time. My husband was sitting next to me. I think he was TikToking. I think he was waiting on me so we could get ready to go out for breakfast or something. And he mentioned the words back to something. I don't know for how long now, but anytime those words back to come up, maybe because I'm an 80s child, grew up in the 80s, 90s, that back to life, back to reality, those lyrics, it comes up every time. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me grab my Spotify app, actually type in those lyrics and listen to the song. And so I took a break from what I was doing with the tarot to get up and have a little dance party to this song. And I really loved it. I was having a great time. I don't do that nearly enough, but I enjoy it when I do it. To overcome that inertia to actually put on a song and dance to it, I don't do that very often, but when I do, I love it. It's fun. I was amusing my husband with all of my wonderful dance moves. Anyway, I got tired of that. Not that my age is an excuse, but I am not the most active 42-year-old, and so I was feeling a little... That song can go on, depending on what version you're playing. That can go on for a while, and so I was like, okay, it's been nice, but I need to pause. I'm going to sit back down and catch my breath and get on and continue on with my stuff. And as I often do with tarot, if I'm wanting extra insight, I have this book here that I absolutely love. 78 Degrees of Wisdom, a tarot journey to self-awareness. And I'm opening it up to the world card to read about it, and I see where it refers to the figure on the card as the dancer. I was like, that is so awesome. I was just dancing. So again, it probably would have had to have happened to you, but with the string of coincidences, synchronicities, it felt like, oh wow, I'm in the flow right now. And then I looked up the world card in the Curious Creatures guidebook, and it was talking about working with others in cycles of completion and having inner peace. So that working with others would be in stark contrast to the competition that's portrayed in the Five of Wands card. So I loved that. And I recently had a solar return reading. Did I say I was 42? Oh gosh, I hope I said I was 43. I'm 43 years old. Golly. Okay. So anyway, I recently had a solar return reading from Dana Solera over at Self Help Witch, and she was telling me how my solar return chart was indicating that I really need to work with others in order to make things happen. I need to be able to ask for help, which is not necessarily my strong suit because I just was raised with that whole idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and if you're feeling bad, then you don't tell anyone else to bring them down, right? Like you just run with it yourself. You push through. You make it happen. You need to have the initiative. And so for me to ask for help or contribute to a community of sorts. So that's going to be interesting and fun to see how that works out. And my Time Lord for this year is now Mercury. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. If I'm going to be recording more episodes, I would think so, but we'll have to see. Yeah, so that was just a really neat flow of synchronicities that I wanted to tell you about. Switching gears, let's talk about validation. I had an ERC elemental clearing session with an awesome lady named Liana. And I'm not sure if she's offering these publicly or not. I was in this forum where she was offering session swaps. I offered to do a sandbox healing adventure, and she did one of these ERC elemental clearings for me. And it kind of combines emotion code with traditional Chinese medicine. It was really fascinating. I loved it. And she came up with some really concrete things that I can do, like physically, some diet changes that I can do. What element was most out of balance, and what was the emotion behind that, and then where that was located in the body and how to help clear that. And so there were two things that she identified within our time together. And one of them was actually tied to sexual insecurity and this feeling of needing to be reassured. Since this is out of balance, I probably feel either the tendency to be intimidating to others or to be intimidated by others. And that in order to bring that back into balance, she showed me an acupressure place, I think it was on my foot, to massage while I say this affirmation to myself. But it's really asking, how can I cultivate my true power where I'm not needing reassurance? I thought that was really fascinating because all around the same time, I'm getting that information from her. And then the Self-Help Witch podcast, we just mentioned my solar return reading. She had episode number 50, all about creativity. And I loved her quote, "Have fun and expect nothing." Have fun and expect nothing. So that's what I've been trying to do with my offerings, with the astrology and the tarot readings, just to have fun and expect nothing and see what happens with it. And she talks within the podcast about how everyone wants affirmation. Those words, "you're doing a great job," or "you're so awesome at this," "you're incredible," "you blew me away." Those are all great things, but you might not be getting those words of affirmation. And so what do? Do you just stop doing what you love because you don't know how other people are receiving it, and you're just playing these different narratives in your mind about how other people are receiving it or rejecting you? There could be lots of things that we tell ourselves, and these narratives keep us from ever getting started in the first place. And then secondly, continuing on when we don't get that immediate gratification of the accolades, right? Like, "you're doing such a fantastic job. You're so great at this. You were born for this," right? "You're so gifted." So yeah, listen to that episode. I highly recommend it. She has so many good, concrete points about how to overcome inertia and actually do the thing. Do the thing that you want, that makes you happy, that you have fun at. So continuing on with this whole theme of not needing affirmation or reassurance from other people or out external validation, the Spirituality with Ashley podcast came out with episode number 25, unpacking the impact of external validation on energy and manifestation abilities. I haven't listened to that whole episode, but just even the title itself was incredible because it was a synchronicity with everything else that's been going on, like the universe shouting at me. The weight that you put on other people's validation, it's killing your creativity. That's why you don't feel inspired. Like your creativity has died and you don't even know what you want to do. You can't find that motivation, that fire to do anything. You don't even know what you want. It's because maybe you did start off knowing what you wanted, and then you put yourself out there, you did it again and again and again. And then like this podcast, I think I'm 80 some odd episodes in. And if you don't get that validation, then you start to tell yourself this story of It's not helping anyone. No one cares. I might as well just stop. The Self-Help Witch podcast it was really good to the point where like all these people are already saying the things that I could say, but even better. The thing is, like, she addresses that whole internal block that you come up with, that excuse. She addresses that in her podcast too. So I can't use her as an excuse for me not doing my own thing. And perhaps maybe I am saying the exact same thing as a lot of other people are saying, but maybe I need to hear me say it. Maybe by me saying it, it's a matter of me processing it and starting to internalize it and hearing myself say it. Maybe that internal voice will start to reflect that and start mirroring that, and where I'm kinder to myself, you know? So I say all that to say I hope that I will overcome inertia. I will overcome these excuses that everyone is saying what I want to say, but they're saying it even better. I will overcome the excuses that I don't have anything to say or to share. Well, at the same time, also holding space, because, there are polarities, like also at the same time, holding space for the fact that there are times to close. There are times to withdraw. There are times to have introspection and not be so outwardly facing. So how can I navigate that organically from an internally driven place as opposed to that negative self-talk? I think I've basically covered everything that I wanted to cover. I thought I was going to do a super short episode. I thought if I kept it short, then people would be more liable to listen. Here it is. It's like super long. Anyway, if I were to podcast more often, maybe I'd be able to get what I'm trying to say out more. And I was thinking, even if I don't have anything profound to say, what I would like to do is come to you once a week or so and at least share what I find fun. What am I reading? What am I listening to that I find inspirational, that's really resonating with me? And in turn, sharing that with you so that even if I'm not creating original content, I am curating stuff and sharing it with you and maybe elaborating on it, how these things that I'm hearing through podcasts or books that I'm reading are showing up in my life. And that reminds me, I had something else to add. When I talked about what I'm reading, it reminded me, I totally skipped this really important part. That was the awesome book, Saturn, A New Look at an Old Devil. Because I don't know about you, but this malefic in the chart, I have blamed it for a lot of stuff. Possibly very rightly so. But this book helps you reframe the pain and challenges that you uniquely have experienced. And it's like she's talking to you. Saturn is in Libra in my 12th house using whole sign. And a lot of what she said was like, oh my gosh, she can see right through me. The purpose of Saturn is to help you individuate. Am I saying that right? Yeah, to become your own person. Its end goal is freedom. And I love that self-individuation, because maybe it's because I have Uranus in my first house of self, but that is a huge part of me. I love the idea of freedom and self-governing and sovereignty. And so I can get on the bandwagon with Saturn on this. And what she's saying is that it uses pain and discomfort to get you there. Because if we enter this life wanting to learn to experience freedom, then there are going to be ways in which we feel not free, in which we feel imprisoned. And in the 12th house, that can be often in my mind. Like I feel, I've had a lot of mental health struggles, and that's an ongoing thing. But the purpose of Saturn is to make you be in so much pain and discomfort that you have to do something different. There has to be something else. You have to make a change. You staying where you are is not an option. And so Saturn's job is this perhaps not so glamorous job of making you uncomfortable to do the things that you're here to do. So for example, sometimes I feel lonely. Now the thing is if I did not feel lonely, would I even seek to connect via a podcast with the viewer, with the listener? Would I even seek to connect with myself, to source some type of comfort from myself? If I had other people around me constantly providing that for me, I would never learn freedom in that sense of not needing other people. And like I said at the beginning, I think this year is going to be about learning to ask for help. So I'm not saying that at all. I am just saying that instead of seeking validation from other people, instead of seeking friendship from other people, I need to first source that from within. And that doesn't always come about by you being comfortable. Sometimes you have to be so uncomfortable that the status quo, it's unsustainable. What I thought of it as is like in Harry Potter, aren't those called portkeys? It could be a shoe or a can or something like that. It's this very mundane, unpretentious looking thing, but you touch it and it's not a comfortable experience according to the book, right? At first, you're not even used to it. You can get sick to your stomach. It's disorienting, but you end up on the other side in a different place where you wanted to be. And so I kind of see Saturn as a portkey. Maybe that image helps some. I love anything that feels more empowering. My story about Saturn up to this point has been a very disempowering one. So I really highly encourage reading this book. I was listening to the audiobook first, and then I found myself hitting the bookmark so often in the app, and I never bookmark anything in my audiobooks. So this was really weird, but every 2 sentences or so, there was like this gem. I'm like, I need to remember this. I need to be able to find it again. So I'd hit bookmark and then put like one keyword so that I would have some idea as to what this bookmark was about. And then I would keep listening. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me bookmark this again. And I was like, oh no, I need to get an electronic version, so a Kindle version, so that I can highlight and be able to share clips on social media or to other people, or just be able to type out my notes. It says Saturn in the 10th house chapter. I can highlight that and put my note and add the people I know who have Saturn in the 10th house. So that way when I'm revisiting it, I'll be like, oh yeah, that matches up with what I know about them, right? So now that I've had those 2 editions, I now know that I need to get a paperback version as well, because I just do. I don't know, there's just something about a reference that you can hold in your hand, flip straight to a chapter and read it, where it just comes alive in an extra special way. And I don't have any more water. My voice is getting dry and scratchy. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that book. Continuing on with this whole theme about how I can share what I'm listening to and what I'm liking, what I'm vibing with. The Astrology Podcast with Chris Brennan, he came out with a first house episode. And he had a co-host. At the moment, I can't remember his name, but he was amazing. And the 2 of them went through the first house. It's a really long episode, so I had to listen in segments. But it went through examples of people with each planet in the first house. So I already mentioned I have Uranus in the first house. So when it got to that part, it was talking about how that could express itself. And it was just amazing. It would be a great episode for anybody. But if you have a lot of planets in your first house, I think this would be very valuable indeed to listen to that as well. Like, what if you were to have Saturn in the first house? You need to listen to this podcast episode and get that book, Saturn, A New Look at an Old Devil. by Liz Greene. Okay, I think that's enough. Done. Again, check out my website, sandboxalchemy.com. And that's going to have links to tarot, my dream interpretation, astrology, readings, and so forth. So if you don't remember any of the other websites, just remember sandboxalchemy.com. And if anyone knows anything about branding, feel free to take a look at my website and tell me if I'm completely off track, if I need to do something different. But again, I'm doing it because it's fun, not because it's paying any bills. It's not even covering my daily boba drink addiction. So anyway, it feels good to be back. I'd like to think that I'll be back often. Ideas for future episodes. Hey, if you would love to come on to a podcast episode with me to talk about something, maybe we can do a tarot reading live, or we can do an astrology reading, or we can talk about current events. Oh gosh, with my Libra stellium, I am a little confrontation adverse. I will tell you that here in the States, there was an event that happened, and I think a lot of people missed out on an opportunity to show love. So I think I would just encourage us all to, when situations arise, instead of letting things be even more divisive and poisoning our relationships with our fellow man and womankind, it's like let's take the opportunity to build bridges, to extend love. We can do better. That's all I'm saying. We can do better, and I want to be a part of doing better. So if you are on that same page, feel free to come on the podcast. We can talk about some type of current event, or we can draw cards and see what the tarot has, what kind of insight we can glean from that. I love playing with all these tools, right? Because I know that wisdom and the knowing is there. It's just like, what tools are you using to tap in to that wisdom and that inner knowing? And sometimes for me, it's tarot. Sometimes it's meditation. It doesn't have to be this one thing. Because again, I was listening to Caroline, F Peace and Chaos. I was watching one of her Instagram reels, and it was talking about what if, this is why she built her psychic abilities, is because she was like, what if I were on a deserted island and I didn't have any of my tools, my spiritual things? I would still want to be able to connect to source, to have that channel open and available. And so that's why she cultivated the psychic abilities. And I brought that up to her when we were having our session together, that she had said that. And she was like, yeah, I wasn't casting any shade on tarot or whatever tool that someone uses, whether it's a pendulum. It's just not becoming so dependent on that thing as having the truth or the knowledge. You are connecting to something beyond that tarot card. You are connecting to something beyond that pendulum. So that's what she was getting at. And I really have. I just keep talking, don't I? Oh, okay. I'm done for now. I just want to encourage you, in closing, to reach out. Let's turn this into a conversation, not a lecture. I would like to turn this into a relationship where there's some back and forth. Let me know how you enjoyed the episode. If you have something you want me to talk about in future episodes, you can go to my website and leave a listener mail, a voice memo, shoot me an email, whatever you feel like, okay? All right, talk to y'all later. Bye.